In this video, we're going to take a look at the Chicago outfit. We're acting as the administrator for them. In the module, you have the Chicago outfit page. That's the one with the picture of the crime boss. And then we have street bosses, which are our executive group. We have soldiers, which are going to be in our staff group. And then we have an IT guy in the IT group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up one of the user accounts. I'm going to add them to a group. I'm going to assign the group. I'm going to assign the, first I'm going to, let me start over. I'm going to create a username. I'm going to create the group. Then I'm going to make the file share and assign the user to the file share. So after we've done that, we can log in from a workstation with that new username we just created, and then use what's called a UNC, a Universal Naming Convention, to map that drive from the workstation. Then whenever the user logs in, they can get the network file share. So I'm going to give you, like one user and one group, and then I would expect you to repeat that for the three groups. And so let's get into it. So we're going to use Active Directory users and computers. Administrators use that to maintain, create users and computers in our domain. If you don't see that here, that means that your server is not a domain controller. So you have to do that first. And that's covered in an earlier video. So what we're going to do is we're going to start that up. And here you can see our panel. Here's our target domain. And you can see the built-in containers that come automatically when we created our domain controller. These containers will be the same for every domain, so you'll learn your way around. We don't have to know all of this. There's only a few things that we need to know in order to administrate our network. In the computer container, you can see I've added 3 computers to this domain. So I need to rename that to staff. I've got the executive computer in there, and then I have a third VM that might be left over from something. If I find that this actually is an extra one that I joined but didn't unjoin properly, I can go in there and I can delete the account. If I made a mistake, I'd have to rejoin that VM back to the account. What we're interested in here is the user container. And you can see again that there are a lot of users that have been created automatically. The ones that we're really into here are the domain administrators, which is a group. And then you can tell that because there's 2 people there, right? And then here is our administrator user. And then we have all the properties of our administrator user. So if we go to account, you can see that there's the domain and there's the login name. You can see that the administrator is a member of domain admins, which is really important because without that, we can't manage our domain. So let's create our first user. You'll want to pay attention to this because you're going to need to do that for the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on the Chicago outfit page. So we're going to create a new user. And I gave you names that we could use. Let's start with James Marcello. So all we have to do is just fill out the wizard. Put my paper down here. So we do James. If we had a middle initial, we'd put that there. I didn't bog you down with that. James Marcello. And you can see that it put the name here in the full name. We're going to create our login name, which is going to be the first name, James, and then the first initial of the last name. So he'll be James M at Target. Then we have to give a password. For the users in the CyberRange, I'm going to use the same password for everything. And that's probably a good idea. I am not going to use the administrator password as the user password, although that could be a potential vulnerability. Say if our IT guy, for example, decides to have the same administrator passcode, but we want to avoid that. So I have a naming convention that I've been working on, so that way I can come back to this thing, a month later and still remember it. We'd normally want to do this if we had a secure network and we could count on our users to know how to change their passcodes. We can't always know that. I put in the passcode. I don't want to change it, so I'm going to say no to that. You could make user cannot change passcode. If you had a kiosk and you wanted to make sure that the passcode never changes and that IT knows what it is, you could do that, and then only IT could set it, not the end user. That could be useful. We could have password never expires. I'd like to use that because I don't want it to expire in my CyberRange. That kind of violates good security policies. And what would be nice is to have it change like every 180 days, for example. That would be good enough to get us through the semester. And then when you go into a new CyberRange, then you can go and reset the passcode each time you go in. I think that's probably a good way to do this. But, for now, we'll just settle for password never expires. So there you go. You can see the details here. James Marcello, he's going to be James M. His password never expires, and we finish. And then lo and behold, we get James Marcello there. There's nothing here in the description field. James Marcello is an executive, so I could put that here. If he had a particular office, maybe he's working in New York, maybe he's in Chicago, maybe he's in Florida. You could put more information there so you could describe who the user is. For the CyberRange, I think we really just need to know if he's an executive or staff. So that really doesn't do anything except help us document and understand our users better. So I created the user, and now then I'm going to go in and I'm going to create the group. And the group name is going to be, what are we going to use here? We're going to use executive. So we'll keep the defaults. There are various reasons to do that. There are various reasons not to, but I'm going to make it easy here. So we have our executive group name. And I'm just going to say OK. And there you can see it. It's a group. It's got the people on it. So I can open the group. So after you create the other 6 users, you can go through the 3 groups and then open them after you created them. And when you open it, then you go to member of, and here's where you add your users. So we have James, James, and we could check it. No. James M. What's wrong with this picture? I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to go at this the other way because I want to get the video done. So what I did here is I opened up James Marcello, his properties. I go to member of, and I'm going to add him. I'm going to put executive here. And now you can see that I have the executive group. He's a member of the executive group. So that's pretty much all we can do here in Active Directory. You might ask why we use groups instead of the individuals. Remember, we're going to have a staff, an executive, an IT group. Let's say a staff member gets promoted to be an executive. Instead of having to remove his individual permissions, we can just delete him from the staff group and add him to the executive group. And then he'd automatically get all those permissions. Makes it easier to manage groups and not users. Same thing for, let's say, the staff guy. Maybe he's the IT guy. Maybe he starts off as staff and then he transfers into IT. So you could remove him from the staff group and then add him to the IT group. Then let's say we add another file directory. We have 3 people in that group. We add another directory. We just have to give the group permission and all 3 users actually get it. If we didn't use groups, we'd have to add the permission individually to each of the 3 groups. So let's take a look at the file manager. And so I go into the C drive and I'm going to make a folder here. And I'm going to call the folder like office files. Or let's just shorten that to files. And then I'm going to keep all my files in here. As an administrator, I'm going to do that. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put another folder just for the execs. So basically, an exec would be able to go to files exec and then get the files that are shared by everybody. So I'm going to say files execs. I'm going to open that. Right now you can see that it's empty. Here's the breadcrumbs that get to this. When I click in it, you can see what's called, the file path. This is close to what's called the UNC, Universal Naming Convention. It's on the C drive. We have files, we have execs. Let me go back here. I'm going to click on exec, right click. I'm going to go to share. I like to do it from the properties. It's sort of old school, but it works for me. And I'll go share. I didn't expect that. But that'll be okay for this example. So what we're going to do is we're going to add everyone to the group, and we'll give them read access. So my folder is shared. And then what we can do is on the security tab, I'll edit that. I'm going to put the execs. What was the name of that? Executive. And what I did is I just typed out the U instead of the S, and then you can see the executive. And then what we could do is select the executive and give them full control. which would actually allow him to be like an administrator and share out